Alrighty, CNT120, Chapter 11. We're on the section on physical security, if you will. So, physical access to critical components must be restricted. Yes, we need to make sure that networking closets, server closets, data centers, etc. have restricted access. We have a number of different ways that this can be done. I have samples of each as we go here, so let's just start working our way down through the ones they mention. So keypads and cipher locks. These are one option. There's different options. This is one option. Here we're talking about this kind of thing here. That code is going to minimize or limit who can actually get into and out of a specific room. And again, it's one piece of a larger puzzle. Access badges can be used. A lot of places will use this type of method versus keys. Keys, once upon a time, were the way that you prevented who got access to, but keys can be lost and or copied. Side story, one of the places I worked, and I'm not picking on the coaches, one of the coaches of the school lost the key, one of their keys. Well, that key kind of opened all the doors at the back of the building where, in access in and out of the gym and the locker room, that sort of thing. Well, since that key was lost, they needed to rekey all those doors on the back of the building, which is very pricey, very, very, very costly to do. So a lot of places have moved over to some type of access badge because that can immediately be disabled, if you will. It can also be programmed that Doug Brown has access to this door on these days at these times. And if Doug Brown tries to show up there at, 2 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, it's not going to let him in because it's like, why are you here at 2 a.m. on a Sunday? And if that badge were to be lost, it can be disabled immediately, or, let's say Mr. Brown is terminated. That badge can be terminated immediately so that it's not an issue of like if somebody else gets the badge, can they get in the building? So things like badges and badge readers are commonly used along with proximity cards. Proximity cards are usually a little thicker. Just to give you an idea, this kind of usually works on like RFID type technology that I just need to put my badge near the reader here to be able to get in and out of a room instead of like swiping it through, so to speak. Again, these tend to get used a lot as well because they can be programmed for certain place, a certain person at a certain place at a certain time they're allowed. Outside of that, they would be denied. Not to mention all that traffic is logged too. They would know that Doug Brown went through this door at this day and this time. And if they start seeing Doug Brown go through a certain door at a certain odd time, questions might be like, why are you here at that time? What is going on? Biometrics can be used. And again, we could be combining these things as well, just to kind of remind you of like the big picture here. Biometrics can be used, do a fingerprint scan, do an iris scan, even do this scans your hand, and I think it's like the veins and so forth and arteries in your hand, that sort of thing, as well as the dimensions and that sort of thing. All those can be used as a different check or a different verification, if you will. Some places might actually use an access control vestibule man trap, aka man trap. You might have encountered these at a place like a bank, outside of like a data center, if you will. Here, it works in this principle. I might use a badge to swipe open this door. Once I get into this room, no matter what I do to this door, it will not open until this one closes and latches. Once this one closes and latches, then my card would be actually read. And the idea is it's controlling only that person is allowed into that room, and you're not going to have somebody tailgating you and sneaking in behind you that should not be there. That's your access control vestibule or aka man trap. That's kind of the old name for it. Locking cabinets and racks, absolutely. If somebody does get access to a data center, we still want to have the equipment locked away that they can't just go in and start turning things off or plugging USB drives in or whatever into servers and other equipment. So having a 4-post open rack might be okay in some facilities, but other facilities it is not. Locking it up, and actually the front and back doors and the side panels all lock on these as well. Some cases even using a smart locker. They put this in here to remind you about getting access to certain things, and we can think of this as places like Amazon and so forth. I actually swipe and prove who I am, and then a certain door will open that I have access to resources. These are all methods that can be used or combined to add some security, physical security, to your data center, your server closets, equipment closets, that sort of thing. Some other things that should be on our mind is some detection methods. We need to be able to be monitoring and detecting if things are out of the ordinary. Motion detection cameras, tamper detection, all of these might need to be part of your plan. Motion detectors can be mounted in the corner of a room, and in a simple sense, when somebody walks in, the light kicks on. That would be a simple sense of that. Well, it could also be configured that when somebody comes in, light turns on, and a camera starts recording activity. Who's there? What is going on? And it could just be indicating somebody's coming in to check on, hey, why is there smoke in here, kind of thing. But could also be checking, somebody's in here at 2 in the morning. What are you doing? Why are you here? Oh, it is actually Doug Brown that swiped in. He's here to repair blah equipment. Okay, that makes sense. Cameras. In many cases, you're using cameras potentially in hallways, in data centers, even doors of data centers, maybe front doors of a facility, or doors by stairwells, that sort of thing, to monitor traffic in the building for anything out of the ordinary. Fun side story. Once upon a time, our program was in the Midtown 2 building. At that point, when we moved, I'm trying to think, I think it was when we moved in there. So this would be 15, almost 20 years ago now. When we moved into there, we had the computers delivered to our lab room first, and then the tables came to the lab room second. After the tables got there, we put the computers up on the tables and noticed that there was, I think it was 2 computers short in the lab room. And I'm like, that's odd. So I contacted our IT person in the building saying, hey, did you guys, borrow 2 computers out of the room or just didn't get enough yet? And they're like, no, we delivered 25 to your lab room. So we ended up having to have security watch some camera footage for us for the last few days, and I'm just going to say some movers that were in the building. I'm just going to put it that way. Some movers that were in the building actually grabbed 2 of the computers, put them in one of their moving bins, and threw some blankets over it, but didn't catch it until they were moving it into their truck on the loading dock, and the camera picked up them taking the computers out and setting them along the side of the truck, and they were able to track down that's where they went, and they were able to make contact and recover those. But if it wouldn't have been for some camera footage, those things would have been gone. Those pieces of equipment would have been gone. So here's a bunch of different camera styles. These can be IP camera. These can be closed circuit camera. All going back to a control area to record. Even some small IP cameras, I think of like your ring phones and that sort of thing, are able to pick up traffic and record. Maybe even, actually a lot of them will sense motion and then start recording. You might need to actually have someone come in and install specific cameras. As you see here, I believe this is one that has some sensors on for night, allowing you to see better in night in addition to your daytime traffic. You might need some tamper detection equipment, if you will. Some equipment, I think even have some simple tags here to know that it's not tampered with. This would be an electric meter to people are not opening that and altering that. But I might even have some equipment that has some tamper on it. Somebody goes to spray a camera or block a camera, that would alert you and let you know that, hey, there's something out of the ordinary here, and maybe you can be watching another camera to see if you pick up what is causing this. The book didn't mention this, but some places might actually use asset tags to track an entity in the building. I know at one point places like hospitals would be using asset tags to track where things like IV poles and so forth were in the hospital. So in different facilities, there might be asset tags on something to track where these things are. Important question to ask when planning for physical security: which rooms contain critical systems or data must be secured? How might somebody gain access to these areas? Because then you want to try to figure out, is there a way that we can block and or watch that? And how and to what extent are authorized personnel granted entry? Do they undergo a background check or reference check? Do they need access? Do they need their need for access clearly justified? Can their hours of access be restricted? Who ensures the lost keys or ID badges are reported, etc.? These would all be part of planning for this. Here's a couple more here as well. Our employees instructed to ensure security after entering or leaving a building, not propping doors, not holding doors for people, so forth. Our authentication methods difficult to forge or circumvent. Can these be easily, copied, if you will? Do supervised security personnel make periodic physical security checks? I remember once upon a time when I worked at I'll say a certain fast food chain, our manager at the time would kind of make sure the people running the drive-through window were on the ball. And one day he went over and opened the doors from the outside, reached in and pulled part of the cash drawer out to make a point that the people running the drive-through window were not paying attention, not locking the door like they should be, and somebody could have walked off with cash. And I still remember the employee that day. They went to open their cash drawer and they looked down and their mouth fell open like, where's all the cash? And then the manager stepped around and was like, hey, hello. So are there periodic checks being done to make sure that security things are being followed? Are the combinations, codes, etc. frequently changed? What's the plan for documenting and responding to physical security breaches? What is the plan to do that? And I put just a tail end reminder here on what we had talked about in a previous chapter about social engineering. Remember, there are people that are very gifted, very, very capable, if you will, at talking to people and trying to glean information or get information that allows them to get the next piece, which allows them to get the next piece, which might allow them the access that they're looking for. So training employees and being aware of these things is critical. All right, we'll come back in the next session and start talking about the AAA.